Afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is another unscripted review of an auction. Today we're going to look at a 44,000-mile 2000 Chevy Metro. It's kind of a funny car for us to look at today. Not the kind of car you typically expect at a collector car auction, but still pretty cool in its own quirky, weird way. This one is offered by Bring a Trailer, and it ends in about 3 hours from right now. I will update this video at the end with the actual selling price. This is a no reserve auction, so it'll definitely go. Alright, let's have a look. We'll make this one relatively quick because it's a pretty simple car. Right off the bat, I see it's a blue color, kind of a pretty color. It's got gray bumpers, unpainted, which I'm sure means it's the base model. I think the higher end ones must have had a color matched bumper. I can guarantee you that these hubcaps are not the original hubcaps. These look like something you'd buy at a discount store. And it looks like somebody's added some door edge guards here, and it looks like a broken window deflector, whatever you call these things here. Kind of a fun looking dealership background here. I think I've seen this dealer sell a number of vehicles. Appears to be in Pennsylvania based on this. Let's see, the BAT Essentials. Yeah, it's a dealer, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, definitely a place we worry about rust, just given it is some parts of it are a very snowy climate. But we'll see here. 44,000 miles, 1 liter inline 3, which I believe was actually the smaller engine. I've got some specs in front of me here. Yeah, it looks like this was the 55 horsepower version. I've got a brochure pulled up as well, so I'll reference this throughout this video here. But it appears to be at the 55 horsepower version. That is not a lot of power, but I also imagine this was not a very heavy vehicle. I'm guessing somewhere around 2,000 pounds. Doesn't appear to be listed in the brochure, unfortunately. The Metro, you probably are aware, was a Geo, and it's also based on it is a Suzuki design, but it was called a Geo until until General Motors discontinued the Geo brand, and it was rebadged just as a Chevy. I don't imagine there were any other major changes at that point, but all right, let's see here. So it's got a 5-speed manual. That's good. I think the other option was a 3-speed automatic, which I'm sure is borderline insufferable. Bright blue metallic paint, 2-tone gray cloth upholstery, 13-inch steel wheels, black bumpers and body side moldings, heated rear window, air conditioning, that probably was an option here, AM/FM radio, that very well might have been one as well. Clean Carfax from a dealer and no dealer charges. That's very nice of them. Let's see here. So it's a 3-door hatchback coupe. Those seem like conflicting terms there, but that remained registered in Pennsylvania with its original owner until it was acquired by the selling dealer in June. It's currently August, so they've had it for a couple months. Not unusual. 44,000 miles. Bright blue metallic, which looking at the brochure I have up here is that is the correct name for that. So somebody looked that up. 2-tone gray cloth, powered by a 1-liter inline 3, 5-speed manual. Then they list off the features. Most of these are probably what was standard. I think a rear defroster was a federal requirement at this point. Air conditioning was probably an option. I'll check in a second. Fold down rear bench seat, so they must have had a split folding or maybe a single folding seat, and a radio. The dealer did an oil change and replaced the tires, which I saw up here are Iron Man. That's an off-brand, but their expectations are pretty low here. So it's offered with manufacturer's literature. That usually means the owner's manual, a clean Carfax, and a clean Pennsylvania title. Let's skim here. We'll do a full run through of the gallery in a moment, but right off the bat I see a scuff in the back bumper here. Looks like this window shade or window deflector might also be broken. Same hubcaps on this side. They give you a little bit of background here. Metro was offered as both a 4-door sedan and a 3-door coupe hatchback for $2,000. And there's not a whole lot more that they tell you here. They do point out the chrome door edge protectors, and they point out the retractable antenna mounted on the A-pillar. I noticed that earlier. A little tiny antenna that you could manually pull in and out. Very typical for an economy car back then. 13-inch steel wheels, have 155/80 Ironman iMove PT tires. I do know that the choice of 13-inch tires is very limited, so I'm not going to ding the dealer for that necessarily, although they often will put these off-brand tires on cars. McPherson struts up front, obviously they don't specify that. Front and rear sway bars. I'm a little surprised it has a rear sway bar, but we'll see if that's actually accurate. Front discs and rear drums. Interior, yep, they're right, two-tone cloth, it does appear to be. It's definitely some wear on the driver's side bolster here. Looks like the plastic panel here might be bent, coming off a little bit, not all that surprising. Carpets look pretty clean at first glance. Steering wheel seems to be maybe a little discolored, but we'll see. Not much they tell us here, other than it has air conditioning, an AM/FM stereo, and manual crank windows, as opposed to power crank. 4-spoke steering wheel, that's an airbag wheel. This does have dual airbags, which would have been, I think, were a requirement by 2000. 90-mile-an-hour speedometer, that's highly optimistic. Gauges for fuel level and coolant temperature. Very simple instrument cluster here. 6-digit odometer shows 44,000 miles. Under the engine, or under the hood, there's a lot of space here. It has a tiny little 1.0 liter engine. Look at that air cleaner assembly. That looks like it's from a golf cart. Doesn't appear to have ABS. I think that might have been an option on these, but we'll take a look in a second here. But I don't see an ABS pump. It's a tiny little master cylinder, and I'm guessing this is not power steering. I don't see a power steering reservoir or anything. Let's see, it's a fuel-injected engine, rated at 55 horsepower, 58 pound-feet of torque. This was actually the base engine. The more powerful one, as I mentioned a moment ago, was rated at, where did I see that on here? 79 horsepower, which is actually a pretty big increase. Still not a lot of power, but we'll go through the photos in more detail in a second. Manufacturer's literature, looks like you get an owner's manual, a warranty guide, long gone, and a basic Goodyear. Must have come with Goodyear tires originally. Let's click on this Carfax. Pops up, one owner vehicle, last owned in Pennsylvania, 43,000 miles, no accidents, a lot of service records. Let's see how detailed those are. Nothing to note here, nothing to note here. 1,800 miles a year, which I guess that works out about right for 24 years. Originally sold May 31st, 2000, last day of the month. They didn't register it for 3 months. That, I don't know, might not be strange. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I believe that's where the dealer was. Look in a moment. So it must have been a local car. Maybe they knew it. By 2005, it had 17,000 miles on it. That's 5 years. So it looks like the use decreased a bit. Nothing real strange here. Periodic inspections. Looks like it was pretty much every year, sometime between April and June. It looks like they inspected it. I know Pennsylvania has a somewhat rigorous inspection. 2013, they did some work on the tires, did a tune-up with spark plugs, oil and filter, and just some basic stuff. You might be, if you were really interested, you might be able to call this dealership or this service center and see if they have a record that would tell you more. It looks like they probably did an inspection as well. Exempt from emissions. I didn't notice. Yeah, it was at some point. Pennsylvania must stop checking emissions. Same place, looks like they did another service in 2014, then another in 2015. So somebody was doing pretty much an annual service on this. 2016, 2017, 2018. I'm not seeing anything particularly interesting here beyond basic stuff, but still good to see. Regularly used, at least they were putting a few miles on it, down to 1,000 miles here in this interval, and even less here. So somebody really was driving less and less and less. Looks like they did an oxygen sensor in 2022. That's probably not a big deal on these, but another oil change and basic service. And this is the dealership offering for sale in June of this year, probably when they acquired it, right after it was serviced, oddly enough. Funny, because the dealership said that they changed the oil, but who knows. So, let's see. All right, let's go through the pictures. There's some videos. If I see anything interesting in those, I will let you know, but I'm not going to watch them now. All right, this is the hero shot they included. Probably a little bit of fading on the bumper there, not unusual probably in a car like this. Like I said before, that window trim is, or that aftermarket shade looks like it's partially broken. Overhead shot, paint looks pretty uniform. I don't really see any fading that's obvious. Definitely some fading on the bumper, but not a big surprise in something like this. Headlights look pretty clean. They've probably been cleaned because I see a little bit of yellowing maybe on this one. I don't really see yellowing on this one. Might just be the angle. Yeah, it doesn't look as yellow, but it might have just been parked somewhere where it got more sunlight on that side. Not really seeing any obvious signs of accidents. Looks like some dents right here. Might be something going on down here as well. This window, maybe this is the way they are, but they look like they're broken to me. Like this was probably two pieces to it. That scuff I mentioned in the back corner. Rear bumper's got some scuffs and a little bit of that fading as well. There's not much you can do for gray bumpers like this. Looks like somebody's added reflectors up here at the top. Kind of unusual, but it says Metro on the back, just a big sticker there and the Chevy badge. Looks fine from this angle. Yeah. Get some of these close-ups. You can see the fading here. Yeah, like I said, I think there's some yellowing going on here. Maybe some rock chips. Nothing major. Maybe the headlights look identical. You know, this may not be. I think somebody's riveted some plastic trim here. So this is this is definitely not a correct aftermarket application here. It doesn't slide in like a typical one would. Typically they slide into the window channel there. That is, those are definitely riveted. That's not coming out easily. That's why they left them. Those do not look great, if I'm honest. There's that dent. The dealer's done a nice job pointing it out. These are nice photos. Tires are, as it's stated, new. Looks like we've got some undercoating in here. That's probably factory. Those Iron Man tires. I imagine that these are prone to rust in this area. I doubt that there's a lot of rust proofing from the factory here. These were kind of throwaway cars back then. I do believe, looking at the brochure here, the original would have had really cool looking 3-spoke wheel covers, plastic wheel covers, which is a shame that they're missing. Maybe you can find those on eBay or something. These definitely look cheap. Not to say that the original ones would have looked great, but they definitely looked better than this. The Metro came in 2 different trim levels, base and LSI. The LSI had painted bumpers, body side moldings, floor mats, an easy entry passenger seat, and it looks like a handful of other small items. Plus it had more power. It had the 1.3 liter engine. It actually looks like if you wanted an automatic, the only way you were going to get it was with the LSI. Oh, I lost our place here. Brand new tires, still have all the markings on them. Right, driver's door here. It looks like somebody's probably added some reflective. I doubt that's factory. Scuffs on the door here. I don't know where you're ever going to find another panel like this, but you might be able to gently sand those down a bit, make it look good. This looks like where the little pin in the bottom of the door goes in for safety. That probably was part of the 1997 crash test standards. Same deal on this side, except there's an orange reflector. Those are certainly not original. There's that driver's seat again with that. That's vinyl here, and then this is cloth. You could probably replace that vinyl pad. Passenger seat looks really nice. Looks like it's barely been used. Maybe a little bit of light staining in the upholstery. I'm sure you could clean these up though. This looks nice inside. Some scuffs on the glove box door and maybe on this side of the dashboard. Very minor. No floor mats pictured. A little bit of rust here on the seat rail. Kind of hard to avoid in a wintry climate. I'm not exactly sure where Johnstown is in Pennsylvania, but it's certainly not Arizona when it comes to dryness. Looks like something might have been attached down here at one point. There's a key. Looks like probably an aftermarket key. We'll have a look. Very basic car. Looks like somebody had a little something glued on here and here. Maybe there was a GPS or a phone holder or something at one point. There's that basic AM FM radio. Does have air conditioning. There's that button that was not. I'm going to look here at those specs, but that does not appear to have been standard on these. Yeah, neither was the radio, actually. That was an option on this. Actually, it's showing that it looks like both of those were technically considered a dealer install item back then. The only option that this vehicle has from the factory is the gray body side moldings on the outside. You can actually get it without those, the ones on the doors. Just notice this looks like somebody has drilled some holes in up here. Probably from a phone mount, or I don't know. Hard to say. There's that manual transmission. Only way you could get the base model, according to the brochure. That back seat is just a single piece that folds down, although that would give you quite a bit of storage space back there. Let's see if the brochure specifies. Actually, I should back up. The rear window defogger was actually an option on this. That was not a requirement at that point. And you could get a tachometer on this. And I take it back. Air conditioning was a factory option. Air conditioning and the AM/FM. So I take back some of the things I said before. Let's see here. It's got speaker grills here. There's probably 4 speakers on this, or at least provisions for 4. Headliner's got a tear in it, pretty obvious there. It's got plugs where the higher end runs probably had grab handles. You could probably add those back on, find them in a junkyard or something. Very basic. Carpets look nice, maybe a little staining here, but not bad. Look at that tailgate. It's just got a little vinyl pad right in here, and otherwise it's just exposed painted steel. Nothing covering it. Something in the trunk here. Don't know what that is. Hopefully they provide a better photo of that. Actually, let me back up because there's some, looks like maybe some staining to the trunk carpet. And I noticed, back up a bit here, that the back seats have some indentations from the seat belts, from the seatbelt buckles. So I'm guessing the back seat was down for the most part in this vehicle. You could probably hit that with some steam and or a heat gun very gently and get those to pop out. Back to where we were, that engine. Not much going on here. I don't see anything alarming whatsoever. These stickers all look factory, everything here. I mean, by Metro standards, or sorry, Chevrolet Metro standards, this looks pretty nice. A little bit of rust on some of the bolts here. If you wanted to take this to Radwood or a Concours event, you could probably replace those with something you find at true value. Or Ace. And as I review this, if I point out anything that is wrong, please feel free to bring it up in the comments. This is not a car I know particularly well. I'm not seeing anything that looks unoriginal here either. Alright, we've got some underbody shots. I mean, this looks really clean. These, the suspension arms here look like they've got some light surface rust going on. You could probably, if you were going to use this in a cold climate, I would paint over those with treat them and paint them correctly. Exhaust actually looks pretty nice. Let's see if there's better photos. A little bit of rust creeping in some of the spots where that have been welded on here. But I mean, we've got factory markings like these yellows here, and yep, it does have a rear sway bar. So it'd be really simple to replace those bushings if you needed, and the struts for that matter. I'm a little surprised it's not a torsion beam rear end. I don't know if this is a factory exhaust with that bend in it there, but it's certainly not new. Tiny muffler. Looks nice under here. Nothing that would worry me. So looks like a new oil filter. There's that Sandin air compressor. I'd be surprised if that's factory, so that may have been replaced at some point. It does say R134A on it, but I think that probably was the standard by 2000. Yeah, I mean, these pinch welds look great here. A little bit of underbody deadening spray-on material looks fine there. That all looks factory. Let's see here. These were made in Canada, somewhere in Ontario, I assume. It was made in February of 2000. I believe, if I remember correctly, it sold in May. So it sold relatively quickly. Not sure how in demand these were at the time, but I know every time gas prices go up, these things skyrocket in value. There's your VIN with the very General Motors looking font to it. Some Pennsylvania inspection stickers. That one's the annual windshield sticker, and exempt, maybe that's the I don't know Pennsylvania well. I know one's emissions and one is probably registration, but I don't know. Oh, they've put, Now this is interesting. So these are the red lights, obviously. These probably plug into a cigarette lighter. And what somebody has probably done is use this as an RV tow it behind an RV, and they stick these on the top. So I did not see any signs. We're going to go back to some of these underbody pictures. A really popular use for these, but I did not see any signs of anything mounted to the front here. Well, we've got this. So here's the engine. And we do have this little plug here, which is probably what plugs into the vehicle in front of it. I said that wrong before. That would not have plugged into the cigarette lighter. This would plug into the vehicle that's towing at the RV, so that when the RV applies its brakes, the brake lights turn on. And those ones that were in the trunk, which would be then magnetically attached to the top of the vehicle. So that's there. I did not see any other signs of towing equipment on this. Let's see if there's maybe a better, when we get to the end here, we'll go back and see if maybe there's a better shot of under the front bumper. But definitely something you want to think about. I don't know that this vehicle accumulates miles when it's being towed. Sometimes when they have a mechanical odometer like this, they will. It would be worth researching for sure. Because if not, then you know that at least the axles have a lot more, and the wheel bearings and so forth have a lot more miles on them probably than 45,000. But if they do accumulate miles, then it was probably driven very little, which means the engine probably has fewer miles on it, if that makes sense. There's those manuals again. All right, this is a picture of somebody, probably a previous owner. I might give the comments a skim afterward here and see if there's anything notable, but that might tell you the car's story a little bit. Here's an old roadside assistance. They probably gave you 3 years of that. Well, I am wrong about the speed. It does look like somebody has managed to exceed 85 miles per hour in this vehicle. We can also see that there's something that was probably glued onto the molding here over the steering column, and here's where those 2 holes are. This is, I assume, going downhill. It looks like it has a shift up light that they're telling us about. The dealer has probably added these pictures after the fact. Here's a more detailed picture underneath. So there's definitely some crustiness on the suspension arms here and underneath. I probably would give this a bit more of a bath underneath, but and if I'm looking here, this almost looks like it might be an alarm system speaker, is my guess, because I do see a little wire hanging here. I would probably be asking more questions about that. Yeah, you can see some rust creeping in here. It's maybe a little rustier than I thought it was initially, but you know, the pool of low mile 25-year-old Chevy Metros is pretty small. Can't be real picky here. This is, I'm assuming, the original dealership, Shannon Chevrolet GU in Berlin, Pennsylvania. That's really neat. Looks like this was probably on the vehicle. It's pretty worn. Very cool though. And we're back to the original photo. All right, we can see here if the dealer said anything. I'll just look for their comments. We don't have any service records other than the Carfax. He has a call to the original owner to ask him if he's ever had the timing belt done. So these do have a timing belt. I imagine that's a pretty simple job on this. I'm not going to go through all the comments because there are 56. We'll just look for anything that the dealer, that's where the dealer added the pictures underneath those detailed pictures. They were trying to show you the drive shaft in response to a dealer or a commenter's question, but I saw more rust than anything else there. Some nice comments from dealers. There's the dealer driving it up to 87 miles an hour. There's a video there of them doing that. It is not equipped with power steering. That's what I noticed as well. Is there anything else here? You can call the dealer directly with questions. I'm surprised they let that comment stay. The vent shades are attached with some small Phillips screws. We haven't tried taking them off, but we are sure they just unscrew. I'm going to look at that again because they looked more like rivets to me, but where was the detailed picture of those? Alright, maybe they... Alright, I stand corrected. Those are Phillips screws, tiny little things. Definitely not done in a particularly professional manner, but well, to each their own. Can't imagine that somebody didn't make vent shades for those, but alright, we'll scroll back up to the top here, and as I said, I will post whatever the final selling price is here, currently at $3,900 with 2.5 hours to go. If you wind up buying this car, please reach out and contact me. I'd love to do an interview with you, talk to you about your experience, maybe what you were looking for in it. Yeah. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And definitely like, share, and subscribe to my channel. This will get me to do more and more of these. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a great day.